Geek to me radio, da 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 da. Geek to me radio, da 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 da. Welcome, boys and girls, geeks and nerds, to another exciting episode of Geek to Me Radio. Today I am joined by writer, producer, actor, author Greg Weisman. If you're a fan of cartoons in general, then you're going to love this segment. Stand by. We're talking TV, comics and movies, and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek from Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors for Hogwarts houses, one ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all. And we go right to the phone lines. My guest is, as I said, writer, producer, actor, author, Greg Weisman. You know him from many different works of his. If you're a fan of Gargoyles in the 90s, if you currently like Star Wars Rebels, Spectacular Spider-Man, and of course, Young Justice. We miss it. We want a third season. Greg, thanks very much for calling in.
Happy to do it.
So I was going over the list of all the stuff you've done, and the ones I just named off are just part of them. Was this something that you always wanted to do, to be in this kind of the geek environment as far as the writing and producing?
I'm fundamentally a storyteller. That's been true my whole life. If I had been born during the Renaissance, I'd be that guy on a donkey going from town to town with a lute, So it's good I wasn't born during the Renaissance, because I can't play the lute worth a damn, and I look awful in tights. But that's the deal, In other words, the medium to me, I enjoy working in all sorts of different media, and that's less important to me than the ability to tell stories. Now, of course, I am a big, huge, massive geek. Love comic books. Love superheroes, love all that kind of stuff, science fiction, fantasy, in particular detective fiction, and so all those sort of genres. What I love in particular about the superhero genre is that it is such a bastard genre that combines science fiction and fantasy and detective fiction, and all those other genres are all weaved into the superhero genre, so that what's fun for me about doing shows in that genre, and most of the ones you named are included there, is that there's so much flexibility to that genre. So even a show like Gargoyles, which wasn't guys in tights and capes flying around, was still basically a superhero show without the trappings. But that, again, allowed us to do stories that combine mythology and Shakespeare and myths and legends and science fiction and all sorts of great stuff, and that maximum level of flexibility makes for fun storytelling for a goofball like me.
Absolutely. I just recently took a course from the Smithsonian Online talking about the rise of superheroes and how basically the comic books are our modern mythology, with the Greek gods and everything like that kind of brought to life in a way. And there's even been some episodes of Batman the Animated Series that kind of reference that, when Zeus is his enemy and he gets put in Arkham, and he sees Poison Ivy as Demeter and Two-Face as Janus. So there is that great mythological background, as you mentioned. And you also mentioned Shakespeare. You are a Shakespeare fan, really, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm a massive Shakespeare fanboy. Big time. I don't have the kind of free time that I used to have, but there was a point in my life where I would go all over to watch Shakespeare wherever I could find it. And just this summer, I went up to the Oregon Shakespeare Festival and saw Timon of Athens, which is a very rarely produced Shakespeare play. And what that means is I've now seen all of the canon Shakespeare plays performed except for King John. I'm still missing King John, but once I see King John, then I'll have seen them all.
Well, St. Louis Shakespeare, if it puts it on, I'll make sure to let you know so you can come down here and see it. Though, was that something you were just kind of born with? Or was it something you got turned on to in school that you just all of a sudden latched onto and loved, your love of Shakespeare?
Really not till college. I mean, even in high school, the appeal of Shakespeare kind of eluded me. But once I got to college, it just sort of clicked for me. I had a great Shakespeare professor there, the late Ron Rebholz, and that helped. And I also spent a semester in Oxford studying Shakespeare there, and I just saw some incredible productions during that time. And immediately after college, I moved to New York City to work for DC Comics, and there's great Shakespeare in New York. So then I came back to Los Angeles. I'm from LA, and I moved back here, and there's great Shakespeare in LA and near LA in San Diego. And again, back in those days, I would drive out to Utah and go see the Utah Shakespearean Festival, or I would go up to Oregon and see the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, and just sort of hunted it down everywhere.
Now, I know some people, I've had some discussions with friends who are also Shakespeare lovers, and I've had one or two get upset when I brought up the complete works of William Shakespeare abridged, because they say, oh, it's making fun of it. But I think they embrace it in order to make fun of it, as it were. Have you seen a production of that?
I haven't, no. I don't have any problem with it, but I haven't personally seen it.
It's very funny. If you get the chance to, I highly recommend that one. And a lot of the Gargoyle characters were named after Shakespeare. And even the novel you've got out, Reign of the Ghosts, is set in Prospero Keys. Obviously a nod to Shakespeare as well.
There's a lot of Shakespeare, particularly The Tempest and Reign of the Ghosts, and that series, including Spirits of Ash and Foam. The Tempest plays a major role in that, and a lot of the nomenclature comes there. But it's actually, as the book series progresses, or as it will progress, hopefully the connections to The Tempest will be more and more obvious. But I've used Shakespeare in as much of my work as I could get away with. We had not just characters named for Shakespearean characters in Gargoyles, but actual. We had Oberon and Titania and Puck and Macbeth and the Weird Sisters in the show, not just named for them, but those were those characters, at least in theory. And then in Spectacular Spider-Man at Peter Parker's high school, we did a production of A Midsummer Night's Dream, and had a lot of fun doing auditions and rehearsals and various episodes, and then had an episode that I'm very fond of. I wrote it, so I'm biased, but where Spider-Man is trapped in a prison trying to escape all the villains that he put there, we counterposed that with the high school production of A Midsummer Night's Dream, and it was, to my mind, a pretty effective conceit. I can't always use it. It's tough to fix Shakespeare into a galaxy far, far away.
Right, yeah.
But when I can, I like to get it in there.
Yeah, I think with the superhero genre, I think there's, if you were to blend mythology and Shakespeare and everything, there's a number of ways you could go, especially with so many of the characters out there that you've had a chance to work with.
Yeah, exactly.
So with Young Justice, I know it's very, very popular. People, I haven't seen this kind of fervor since almost like the people want a second season of Firefly. I see people all the time. You keep seeing on Twitter the hashtag keep watching Young Justice, binge Young Justice. We want, renew Young Justice. Is it a fruitless hope at this point, or is there still talk that Netflix
No, I don't
could?
think so. I think, I think one of the things that was true about the series is that we created sort of a perfect binge watching show 4 years too soon.
Yeah.
And my understanding from very superficial information that Netflix has put up is that the show is doing remarkably well. It trends on Netflix all the time. And I think there's a real shot at bringing it back. We advise people to watch the show over and over again. We advise fans to buy the Blu-rays in particular.
Mm-hmm.
We wrote a companion comic series, which is canon to the show and has timestamps just like the series did. And we ask people to buy those issues on Comixology or on iTunes, because those are ways that they can really demonstrate to powers that be that the show has a viable fandom that's willing to spend money to get if the show came back, even before the show comes back. And, there are a lot of other suggestions that people make, like, let's start a petition, but there have been hundreds of petitions, and that doesn't really, the petitions I feel like are more sort of for the fans. It creates a community, so I don't knock them. But that doesn't actually accomplish anything vis-a-vis the Time Warner.
Right.
And if they want to demonstrate something to Time Warner, a few hundred signatures, frankly, even a few thousand signatures, doesn't mean nearly as much as binge watching the show, as buying those Blu-rays, as buying those comics.
Exactly. It's all about the product.
It really is. And it's that simple. I've heard all sorts of, particularly on that internet thing, all these rumors about why the show was canceled, as if it's some kind of big mystery, and that there's no mystery. The show's budget was paid for by the toy line. Mm-hmm. The toy lines failed, and thus the money to pay for the show went away. Mm. And so what we need to demonstrate now is that, given that the whole television paradigm has shifted in the years since Young Justice went off the air, what we need to demonstrate is that this fan base is prepared to support a show under a new paradigm, under the new paradigm. And if they demonstrate that, I think and I don't say this about every show. People ask me the same thing about especially Spider-Man or Gargoyles, and I'd love to be able to say, yeah, I think we can get them all back, and I don't feel that way. I wish I did. But I do feel that way about Young Justice. I think there is a really good chance at getting it back, but it's about the fans demonstrating it in effective ways. And B, it's also about them realizing that it's a marathon, not a sprint. I get a lot of people going, well, I watched the show. Right. Can I have it back now? I'm like, look, first off, it's not up to me.
Right.
That's one of my hashtags, not up to me. People write me and go, why did you cancel the show? I'm like, I didn't cancel the show. Why would I put myself out of work?
Right, exactly.
It's not my call. I don't even work at Warner Brothers anymore. I don't have any inside information, but I do understand how the business works. And I think this is a real, sincerely viable strategy for getting it back. But they've got to understand it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's not about, buying one Blu-ray and going, well, I did that, now I'm done. No, it's about, demonstrating, spreading the word to other fans. If you have done your part, great, but help us out by making sure that there are new fans and other fans finding out these methods and going for it. And look, I can't offer any guarantees at all. I wish I could, because I'd love to do the show again. My partner, Brandon Vietti, would love to do the show again. All the voice actors, Phil Barassa, our Emmy-winning character designer, would love to do the show again. There's no one sitting here going, we don't want to do it.
Right.
But we need to demonstrate to the powers that be that they're going to make money doing it and not lose money doing it, which frankly is what happened the first time out.
Right. It's all about the money, as we know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back speaking with Greg Weisman after this.
Hey, this is Greg Grunberg, Snap Wexley from Star Wars, and it's all geek to me, my friends.
Welcome back to Geek to Me Radio, talking with Greg Weisman, writer, producer, actor, novelist. We were talking about Young Justice right before the break and how important it is to keep making sure the powers that be know there is an interest in a third season, which there certainly is with the hashtags on Twitter, buying the Blu-rays, keep binge watching it on Netflix. I know that the Twitter thing didn't seem to help Constantine, which I loved Constantine. And they pushed very hard to get a Twitter campaign going, hashtag Save Constantine, even right into the last minute meeting to try to pitch season 2. And NBC ended up going a different direction. Does the Twitter thing, do you find that helps, Greg?
I do. I'm the goofball who started the Twitter campaign in February when season 2 of Young Justice was put up on Netflix, and I think it's built and done well. Twitter's a frustrating animal because of its very nature, as it's so ephemeral. So, literally on a daily basis, I'm answering the same questions over and over again because no one goes to my Twitter feed and goes back and checks to see what. Well, let me see if they asked this yesterday, let alone last week. I just keep getting those questions over and over again, and I try my best. I have good days and bad days, I suppose, but I try my best just to be patient about it, realizing that to the person who's asking this question, they haven't seen the answer before. And that's the problem with Twitter, but the flip side of it is it also has helped us, without a doubt, reach more people, the word to more people. And so, not a perfect system, but I definitely think it's helped. Twitter, I also at least sort of understand how it works. I'm a Luddite by nature. Mm-hmm. And so, for example, Facebook, which I can't even get on right now because it keeps crashing on my cell phone, even when I could get on it, I never understood it. I didn't understand it. It was like a mystery to me. It doesn't feel intuitive at all. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that some people, particularly people considerably younger than me, it does seem intuitive or it seems great and whatever, and maybe it is. But again, I'm who I am, and I got on Twitter and I understood it. I got on Facebook and I couldn't figure it out.
Well, it doesn't help they keep changing things every so often, too. It's like once they get it, I think they should leave it alone. That doesn't help, but...
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough thing for an old curmudgeon like me, but I do think we put stuff up on Facebook, we put stuff up on Twitter. I think some of the fans, I'm not on Instagram or any of those other things, but I think some fans have been putting stuff up there as well. And again, all that stuff helps.
Right.
Every little bit helps in terms of spreading the word. But again, the key about spreading the word is you need to spread the word to get fans to do the things that help. If you're just telling them about it, that's nice. I got no objection to that, but that's not doing anything vis-a-vis Time Warner.
Right.
If you're just saying, hey, would you like a third season back, but not telling them the 3 or 4 things they can do to actually help us, then that doesn't do much. But if you spread the word and say, here are the things you can do that will really help, and those people start doing that, then that's great. And to a large extent, that seems to be what's been happening. Mm-hmm. So again, no complaints in a macro sense. In a micro sense, on a daily basis, I get frustrated. But
sure.
But in general, I think it's worked very well for us.
So have anyone from Time Warner said, here's the hierarchy, if it's binge watching and then buying the Blu-ray and then this, have they given you anything like these are the numbers we're really focused on looking at?
No, I don't work for them, so they're not going to give me any strategic information.
Okay.
What I've said to them and they're aware of is that if they wanted to do more, I would come back. And I am also aware of the fact that they would want me to come back. They've at least expressed that. And again, the people who I worked for at Warner Brothers Animation, they love the show. Even, if people are like, oh, it's those bosses, those
right.
mythical bosses. They're the problem. I'm like, no, my boss loved the show. Just couldn't pay for it.
Right.
If you can find a way to pay for it, maybe he'll bring it back. And he'll bring it back with the key personnel from the first 2 seasons, and we'll do more. But no, he's not going to sit down and sort of say, well, here's the strategy, and there's not going to be any, like, no one's going to give me, I don't even know if this kind of thing exists, but no one's going to give me like a number and say, if we just sell this many Blu-rays, that'll be what we need. No one's going to.
Wouldn't that be nice if they did, though? If it was that simple.
It'd be great, but life doesn't work that way.
Sure.
It's not in this business.
And I noticed when I put up on Twitter, I mentioned that I would be talking with you, and I asked a couple of people if they had any questions, they could tweet them. And we got one from @JacksonClyde27, wanted to know if were there any characters that you were considering bringing in for the third season that we didn't get to see in the first two seasons, or was it going to be more exploring the plot threads that had already been woven?
Both. I mean, just as in season 1, we started with a core group of characters and kept adding to it, and then season 2, we added more characters. If we got to season 3, we'd be adding more characters too, but we'd still be picking up on what we've already built. It's not like we're starting from scratch. It would be season 3. But yeah, we would still have new characters. I mean, that's part of the fun.
And with the comic book kind of picking up and essentially almost being, like you said, it was canon, would there be something that would bridge the comic book into the third season were it to happen?
Well, I mean, the comic, we did 4 trades worth of comic issues. It's 26 issues. Mm-hmm. Most of those took place during, sort of in between episodes of season 1, except for the last set of 6, the last trade, which took place immediately before season 2. We also had a video game called Young Justice Legacy that told a major story that took place in between season 1 and season 2. But I would hope that if they brought the show back, frankly, I'd hope either way, they'd bring the comic back and we'd get to tell more stories in that medium as well. When and where they'd be set, I've got some ideas, but since we don't actually have an order, I haven't sat down and said, well, it's definitely going to be this one and this one or something like that. But, everything's fair game. There are more stories to tell that took place during season 1. Mm-hmm. The whole 5-year gap between season 1 and season 2. And there are tons of stories that took place during season 2, not to mention stuff that takes place after season 2. And we would use, as we always have, we would use the comic to help flesh out the universe and tell some of those stories that we didn't have room for in the limited amount of screen time we have in episodes.
Right. Yeah, it just, there's so many things people I know are constantly talking about on Twitter. Oh, I would have loved to have seen this. I'd love to have seen this. So hopefully we can end up getting that third season and see some of these storylines that people or fans are talking about that you want to do yourself. We're going to take another quick break. We'll be right back with Greg Weisman after this.
Hi, this is Jonathan Katz, and you are listening to Geek to Me Radio, coming to you live from your radio or your computer. It's a show you can listen to. You see what I'm saying? You can hear it. This is something you shouldn't expect to see anything. It's a radio show.
That's right. It's a radio, nothing to see here. But we are talking to Greg Weisman about his work on Young Justice and Gargoyles and Star Wars Rebels. Sticking with the Young Justice for just a moment, the comic book versus the TV show. I know it's writing, but did you find was easier, or I don't want to say more fulfilling than the other, because I'm sure they're both equally fulfilling, but was one easier to do as far as writing wise?
In the abstract, no. In reality, there are a lot more people who want input to a television show than a comic book. So you've got to show your scripts and stuff to a lot more people, a lot more companies or divisions, I should say, of companies than I did on the comic book scripts. Having said that, though, we didn't get a ton of static, so to speak, even on the TV show for Young Justice. we had great people we were working with at Warner Brothers, at Cartoon Network, at DC Comics, and for the most part, people weren't sort of saying, well, you can't do that, or, oh, you shouldn't do that or that. I mean, there was a little of that. I don't want to pretend it didn't exist, but they really trusted Brandon and myself and let us do our thing. And so, the show you saw on the air is pretty much what we wanted to do. Every once in a while there'd be something. At the very beginning, when we were developing the show in the first place, there were 4 characters we were told were off limits for legal reasons. And they included both Wonder Girls, for example. And people have asked me in the past, did you want to include Wonder Girl? And I'm like, well, in some kind of theoretical sense, yes. But the fact of the matter is we found that information out so early that we never really considered them to be in the main group because we knew they were off limits. Now, the irony was that halfway through season 1, the production of season 1, we were told, oh, those 4 characters, you can use them now. But it was too late. It's too late for season 1, but we did use the Cassie Sandsmark Wonder Girl in season 2, obviously. And we had plans to use the Donna Troy character in a couple episodes of season 2. And we ended up not for external reasons. It was because we literally just ran out of time. Our character designer ran out of time. We were going to add our version of Donna Troy and our version of Mary Bromfield, that is Mary Marvel, who we called Sergeant Marvel, to the show. And our character designer just flat out ran out of time. It wasn't time to design the characters, and so we didn't get them into the episode where we had originally planned to, and because we didn't have them there, we couldn't have them in the last episode of the season with all the other heroes. And that was a bummer, but that was a production issue, not sort of something from above, some executive saying, you can't use these characters. That wasn't the case. It was us not having enough hours in the day, really.
Which, again, gives us something to look forward to when season 3, I'm going to say when season 3, because I'm looking forward to it. When season 3 comes down, we get to look forward to the inclusion of the other Wonder Girl, Donna Troy.
I'm not guaranteeing that.
Right. Well, a guy can hope, though.
Yeah, we can all dream. Yeah. But I don't give spoilers. I'm kind of notorious about that. So
sure, and that's not a bad thing at all. I make people wait, and that gets them going. They want to see it. Another question we had, going back to the Gargoyles, from @PLB the Tunist, wanted to know, Disney tends to be doing a lot of live action stuff lately. Is there any chance at all, if you know anything about it, if there's any way they might be doing a live action version of Gargoyles at some point?
Well, I mean, the short answer is they're not. The longer answer is they developed a Gargoyles live-action movie for years back in the day and never found a script that they liked. They went through at least 10 different writers, including me, and Michael Reeves, who was our lead writer on Gargoyles. And those are the 10 writers. There are 10 writers I know of. They may have gone through even more than that. And never found a script they want and put the thing on hold. I think it's a tough sell right now, and there's a really obvious reason for that. Disney bought a couple properties, little things you might have heard of, called Star Wars and Marvel.
That doesn't ring a bell with me, no.
Yeah, so the thing is that, if you've only got so much money and so many slots to make big live action films.
Right.
And you've got the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which has been ridiculously successful.
Yeah, it's a juggernaut. Is not.
Yeah, and by the way, and I'm a huge fan of their movies. The worst of them I still enjoyed watching. And some of them I think are actually really great.
Right.
But like I said, even the one I liked the least, I still enjoyed watching in the theater. And I thought Force Awakens was great. I don't think it's a perfect movie by any means, but I enjoyed it and I thought it was great. And in any event, these movies are making them huge fortunes.
Exactly.
So again, people sort of view a company like Disney and go, well, they've got unlimited resources, and relative to you or me, I suppose that's true, but relative to a big company, that's not true at all. They've only got so many slots. There are only so many big weekends in a year, etc. And they've only got so much money to invest. And when you've got slam dunks like Marvel and Lucasfilm, it's hard to convince them to sort of take a chance on a semi-obscure 90s cartoon that might or might not be a hit for them.
Right, sure. I just figured with everything old being new again, the resurgence of the popularity of kind of that retro feel, I thought maybe there might be hopefully a place for it.
Well, I think there was a point where we had a good chance when Transformers hit big.
Mm-hmm.
There was this, it was basically you were in this 80s wave of nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, that wave's going to move forward into the 90s, and then I think we're a good candidate for them. And I think they thought so too. And we had a little bit of a conversation. I didn't go very far. And then they bought Marvel. And then they bought Lucasfilm.
Mm.
And suddenly, the conversation stopped. And I get it. I understand. So, my hope for Gargoyles is more modest at the moment, which is I'm trying to restart the Gargoyles comic book series with the current license holder, and start on that level, sort of build the audience again by doing in canon, in continuity comics of Gargoyles, get fans sort of ramped up again, and then see where we can take it, whether that's back to television or movies or whatever. I'm open to anything. But I think the plan, unlike Young Justice, I think the plan for Gargoyles has to be more modest, because I don't see Disney making a huge investment in that property right now.
Sure, that's understandable. Given that they've got so much else going on.
Yeah, and it's really that simple. Even from the standpoint of their TV animation division, again, you want an action show, you could, I suppose, reboot Gargoyles or bring it back or whatever, and God knows I'd love to bring it back. I'm not too excited about the notion of rebooting it, because that would be like starting over.
Right.
But, and I don't think that's necessary, but I'd love to bring it back. But it's the same kind of dilemma. They can make cartoons of Guardians of the Galaxy. They can make cartoons of Spider-Man or the Avengers. It's sort of hard to convince them, no, you shouldn't be doing that Marvel show in that time slot. Don't do Star Wars Rebels, do Gargoyles, and that's a really tough sell.
Yeah, sure.
And I understand that. I'm not saying I'm happy about it, but I totally get it, because I love Guardians of the Galaxy. I love Star Wars. I'd like to see that stuff too, but I'd also like to see Gargoyles. So I think we have to start more modestly on that property. And again, Gargoyles is my baby.
Sure, yeah.
And so nothing would please me more than bringing it back. But, again, reality has to inject itself at some point.
See, I think if Disney wants to do something, I think they should make it a live-action TV series, have them cross over with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. See, that problem solved. I think that would be brilliant.
Yeah, that sounds awful, but okay.
I'm just spitballing, Greg. I'm just spitballing right now.
Yeah, I know.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with our final segment with Greg Weisman after this.
This is Paul McGann, the Eighth Doctor. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
And we're back for our final segment with Greg Weisman, writer, producer, actor, and novelist. Talking about the novels, the trilogy. When do you have an ETA on when we can see Mask of Bones?
Well, for starters, it's not a trilogy. It's I don't even know the word. It's 9 books. It's a nonology. I don't know what to call it. But no, the problem I'm having and on one level it's a good problem to have, is that I wanted to get to Mask of Bones, but I just spent the last year writing a novel for Scholastic Books and Blizzard Entertainment, World of Warcraft Traveler,
Ooh.
and that's out in November. And I'm now literally in the middle of writing chapter 3 of the second book in that series. And if people are wondering, well, why didn't I finish the Reign of the Ghost series before I jumped to the other, the answer is, frankly, monetary. I have to pay the mortgage and feed my family. And,
I'm sure your family appreciates that too. That's
right. So and the fact is that I only have so much, brain space, and so writing one novel at a time is pretty much my limit.
right.
So
No, that makes sense.
but I have, again, I love writing Traveler. It's out in November. I'm very excited for people to see it. I'm very proud of the book, but that is a property owned by Blizzard Entertainment, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And I am, on one level, desperate to get back and write Mask of Bones, which is the third book in the Reign of the Ghost series, because that's mine.
Mm-hmm.
That's the advantage of it. The disadvantage is it doesn't pay anything.
Right.
So, and unfortunately, the series hasn't been a big enough hit to generate the kind of even, 100th of Harry Potter level that would allow me to sort of, okay, I can give up these other things and focus on Reign, which I would love to do, but I can't afford to, I'm afraid. But I know exactly the story for all 9 books. And Reign of the Ghost is out there. So is the second book in the series, Spirits of Ash and Foam. You can get them on Amazon. You can go into any bookstore. If they don't happen to be on the shelf when you walk in the door, you can go to the front desk and order them. There's also the Reign of the Ghost audio play. This is not a standard audio book with one guy narrating the whole thing. This is 20 actors playing 30 roles. This is almost 4 hours of original music, sound effects, Foley, the works. It's basically like a 4-hour movie in your head, with incredibly talented people from shows like Young Justice and Gargoyles and Star Wars Rebels and Spectacular Spider-Man, people like Ed Asner, Marina Sirtis, Brent Spiner, Tom Adcox, Josh Keaton, Steve Bloom, Vanessa Marshall. It's a truly stunningly amazing cast of 20. And you can download that now at gumroad.com/Reign of the Ghosts. Reign is RAIN, and Ghosts is plural. So gumroad.com/Reign of the Ghosts. You can download it now. And I know I'm biased since I produced it and wrote it, but I honestly could not be prouder of how this audio play turned out. I think it truly is stunningly great, even relative to my own work. And I really hope people find the books and the audio play, the more likely that I'll be able to get back to them faster, and not have to take other work for monetary reasons.
Yeah, and that's and I noticed you just the talent you mentioned, the voice talent. Marina Sirtis and Brent Spiner, you worked with them on Gargoyles as well as Young Justice. Brent Spiner was the Joker in Young Justice, and I almost didn't recognize the voice at first until I saw it in the credits. I was like, that's Brent Spiner. So I guess you have a good relationship with the two of them, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, we're friends. They're great. They're both great. I met them both doing Gargoyles. Marina played one of our lead villains, Demona. Brent played Puck. Brent was also, I was one of the producers of the first season of Star Wars Rebels, and Brent did a voice for us there. And both Brent and Marina, as you said, were in Young Justice, with Brent playing Joker and Marina playing Queen Bee. And they're absolutely great people and so much fun to work with, and good friends. And they both came on board to do Reign of the Ghosts as well. So you can also check out, we did making of, for the audio play, we did making of videos at reignoftheghost.com. It's a Kickstarter site, but we already funded. It's done. It's not like if you go to the Kickstarter site, we'll still be asking for backers and donations and stuff like that. I mean, the videos ask for it, but we don't need it anymore. So, but if you want to see the making of videos, both Marina's in that, Ed Asner, Brent, and a bunch of other people who worked on the project are all interviewed on these making of videos, and you can see how we produced it and what we did and that kind of thing. reignoftheghost.com.
You know, with your body of work that you've already demonstrated your writing skills, and then with a cast like that, I don't see how that could miss.
Well, really, everyone who's heard it, the reviews have been very good, but our problem has been getting that critical mass of people knowing about it.
Right.
And that's been difficult. I mean, you know, as effective as, for example, as Twitter has been for the Young Justice campaign, as we were mentioning earlier, it has not been at all effective in spreading the word about Reign of the Ghost, the books, or Reign of the Ghost, the audio play. You know, those people who have read the books seem to really like it. Those people who have heard the audio play seem to really like it. I'm not saying we've got no negative reviews, but our percentages are beyond fantastic. Yet we clearly have not reached anything close to the kind of critical mass we need, despite me talking ad nauseum about all of it, and tweeting ad nauseum about all of it. That hasn't gone viral at all the way the Young Justice thing was, which is understandable, but disappointing.
Yeah, sure. I would imagine so. But yeah, there's some of the times it'll sneak up on you too. So hopefully if you're listening to this right now, go check that out. It was reignoftheghost.com to see the making of the video, and then the audio play is available through audiobook on Amazon.
Gumroad.com.
Gumroad.com.
Gumroad.com. We will eventually have it up on Amazon, Audible, that kind of thing. But that process, as it's turning out, I didn't realize this takes much longer than we thought. We finished this in January, and we're still in the process of getting it up on Audible/Amazon/ACX. And I didn't know it would take over 9 months to get it up. I didn't think it would take any time, honestly. But it does. So that was a surprise to me. But in the meantime, if you can't wait, and actually I don't want you to wait, it's just as easy to download off of gumroad.com/Reign of the Ghosts.
Gumroad.com/Reign, as in the weather of the ghosts, plural.com. Perfect. Greg, thank you so much. I'd love to talk for another hour, but I want to make sure you get all the stuff you need to do in on your end. So thank you very much for speaking with us. And we'll be back after this segment. We've been talking with Greg Weisman. We'll have more coming up.
Years ago, superstition and the sword ruled. It was a time of darkness. It was a world of fear. It was the age of gargoyles. Stone by day, warriors by night. We were betrayed by the humans we had sworn to protect, frozen in stone by a magic spell for 1,000 years. Now here in Manhattan, the spell is broken, and we live again!
And that, of course, the iconic opening to perhaps, honestly, one of the greatest cartoon series of all time is Gargoyles. It's got to rank at least in your top 10. No matter how picky you are, it was a fantastic series. And we talked to Greg Weisman. Hopefully, maybe some point down the road, we might get another one. That's his baby, like he said. And if you're listening to this in the podcast version, thank you very much. We appreciate all your support. You can always go to the website, geektomeradio.com. I've got badges in the upper right-hand corner. It'll take you to my YouTube page for unboxing videos, celebrity interviews, and other archived versions of the show. I would also encourage you to follow me on Twitter at Geek2Me and on Instagram at Geek2Me and Facebook.com/Geek2Me. We always appreciate your support and your following and your comments. We did have those couple of comments on Twitter for Greg Weisman, and he answered those. I wish I had him on longer. We could have talked didn't really get into Star Wars Rebels or Spectacular Spider-Man as much as I'd wanted to. But yeah, Gargoyles and Young Justice, those, love those cartoons. He also, just to run down the list for you one more time, writer of Gargoyles, Men in Black the series, Hercules the series, Roughnecks, Starship Trooper Chronicles, which was actually Emmy nominated, Buzz Lightyear Star Command, Bionicle Mask of Light, The Batman, which I think had 5 seasons. Loved that one. It was the Jackie Chan style of animation. They brought in Batgirl before they brought in Robin. I actually love that cartoon series. I'm not sure why some people kind of bash it a little bit. I guess when you've got the other series out there, but I love The Batman. Kim Possible, Legion of Superheroes, Ben 10, Spectacular Spider-Man, Batman Brave and the Bold, which was a lot of fun, Young Justice, of course, Beware the Batman, Star Wars Rebels, Transformers Rescue Bots, and if you're a fan of the live-action series The Flash on the CW, he writes for that one for General Wade Eiling, one of the villains of the show, producer of Gargoyles, producer of Spectacular Spider-Man, producer of Young Justice, and of course Star Wars Rebels. And for those of you who like the Young Justice, he voiced Captain Atom and Snapper Carr. So a little bit of everything, and you will want to go check out his series of novels as well, Reign of the Ghosts, Spirits of Ash and Foam, and at some point, Mask of Bones coming out. This has been great. I know everyone's a fan of the genre, and I love to talk to people like Greg who are themselves. They do it for a living, but they also love it. He talked about writing the Young Justice comic book series, and off the air in between breaks, we talked about he wrote the Star Wars Kanan series for Marvel. Marvel having that new line of Star Wars comics. If you haven't read any of those yet, I would suggest picking those up. Kanan especially, and Vader Down is also very good. That's going to do it for this edition of Geek to Me Radio. Thank you again very much for listening, and keep being whelmed.
It's not in the way you watch I zombie. It's not in the way you watch The Flash. It's not in the way you love Scotty Young Arts. It's not in the way you play Mario Karts. It's not in the way you look when you make Game of Thrones references. That's our show. This is Geek to Me Radio. That's our show. This is Geek to Me Radio.
Thank you very much.